Welcome, 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 and assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you guys are. I am so happy and excited to be joining you guys today with a very important call. One of topics that I keep talking about on my talks as well, but I figured I will bring one of my dear friends and a world-renowned expert on this topic, which is, of course, about high self-esteem. Today, I will be joined by my dear friend and longtime colleague, Dr. Joe Rubino, and we are going to be talking about how to overcome emotional and psychological abuse by using the self-esteem system, how to heal your past, properly assess your present, and design your future in choice with soaring self-esteem. Dr. Joe Rubino, as I said, is a dear friend of mine. He is the CEO of Center for Personal Growth, reinvention.com. He's acknowledged as one of the world's foremost experts on the topic of elevating self-esteem. He's a life-changing personal development and success coach on how to restore self-esteem, achieve success, maximize joy in relationships, and fulfillment in life, and skyrocket productivity. He's known for his groundbreaking work in personal and leadership development, building effective teams, enhancing listening and communication skills, life and business coaching, and optimal life planning. He has 12 best-selling books and audio programs that are available in 25 languages and in 58 different countries. Now, if you are someone who is not living their best life, or you are stuck in your past with diminished self-esteem, then this call, today's interview, is going to be very beneficial for you. If you're not empowered to live your best life in every way, surrounded with warm, loving relationships, happy with your health and appearance, fulfillment in your work, abundance and happiness, if you are not living every day passionately, enjoying the process of life while possessing a positive expectation for the future, then, like I said, this call is going to be wonderful for you. Welcome, Joe. I'm so excited to have you with me today.
It's always a pleasure, Eram. Thank you for having me as your guest.
Yeah, I remember, Joe, listening to you many, many years ago when we didn't know each other. You used to be a regular guest on some of the top telesummits. And then when I launched my own summit, I was super excited when you said yes to being a guest on my show. I've learned so much from you over the past years. And I am really excited because I want to share this topic with my audience as we were chatting before the show started, that self-esteem seems to be a really big problem for people from my culture, from my background. And one of the reasons that I have seen, um, unfortunately, across the board in the Islamic world, is that women are raised with very low self-esteem because from the beginning they are receiving messages and conditioning that tell them somehow they are inferior, they are not good enough, God doesn't like them as much as God likes men. So there is this, sometimes it's unspoken, but you just pick it up from your environment. And they have very low self-esteem issues, and they have these impossibly high standards to meet. You know, you are only worthy if. I was sharing with you that I have some of my students are, I'm always amazed at how excellent they are, how much they have accomplished, you know, the kind of degree that their parents said would be, is what they wanted, or, you know, they have great careers, and yet they have this abject sense of not being worthy, still not being worthy. I call it the achi bachi syndrome, which means the good girl syndrome. But so if you have any comments to say on that, and then I'll start asking you my questions.
Well, it's tough enough for all of us growing up as young children when we have someone say or do something that diminishes our self-esteem. But when you come from a culture that has these mistaken notions about women, about certain personalities, about people from different backgrounds, then you tend to buy into the culture. You buy into the negativity and the misinformation because it's so prevalent in the society and you believe that it's true. So you naturally go to the default that there's something wrong with me. But what happens typically in life is usually before the age of 6, someone says or does something that has us think that we're not good enough, we're unlovable, we're defective, we're flawed in some significant way. So if you're coming from a culture that has that paradigm, which is an incorrect paradigm, by the way, it's never too late to reinterpret what is going on in your life. And the self-esteem system that I created has 3 different components, as you mentioned. So we're going to be talking about the 3, and this can be life-changing if you are willing to take it on. And that's what my gift and my encouragement to you today is, to take it on, because no one needs to live a life of diminished self-esteem. So first of all, the first process is healing and completing your past. So if you can remember an early upset, sometime when someone said or did something, or an event that happened where you became aware that you were defective, not good enough, had low self-esteem, or unworthy, or unlovable, didn't measure up, then I invite you to go there, because we're going to reinterpret that event right now. But if you don't remember an early event, like in early childhood, it doesn't matter, because you have invalidated yourself dozens and then hundreds and then thousands of times ever since. So you can just take any event you can recall that has a sting to it. And here's the exercise I'm going to invite you to take on. So what was said or done that had you have the thought that you were somehow less than, not good enough, unlovable, defective? Now, I'm not asking you for the interpretation of the event. I'm asking you for the exact words that were said or the action that was said. So maybe it was a spanking, you were hit. Maybe it was verbal abuse. Maybe it was a comment about women, or about your own personal self. Whatever it was, separate out the facts from what you made up or bought into. Because if you bought into somebody else's negative opinion or a cultural negative opinion about who you are, then you have the ability to reinterpret that now, and you have the ability to release that. And I'm going to give you a formula today that will help you to identify anytime this thought shows up, the negative self-talker in your brain that you think might be your intuition, and you beat yourself up for it. But your intuition is always based in your higher self, in your spiritual self, in your heart. Your negative self-talk is based in your head. So the more you practice reinterpretation of the thing that's going on with the steps I'm going to give you now, the easier it's going to be for you to develop a new muscle. And that muscle is about being worthy, being lovable, being good enough, being willing to give up your right to be invalidated, and being willing to give up your right to be a victim. So let me give you a little bit of background here.
May I interrupt really quickly, Joe?
Sure.
I was just going to say, I would love for you to give the background. And what I was going to suggest was maybe we take the people through the exercise in a few minutes. I just want to have, I want people to realize, first of all, how important it is to have a healthy self-esteem. So if we do that, maybe give them a chance to, okay, pick something from your past. The further back down you can go towards early childhood, the better it is, because those are usually the key or the original wound areas, right? Yes. And then we can do the exercise with you together.
Okay.
And because there's some people still joining, they're a little late to the show. So I just don't want anybody to miss out. So guys, again, pick some incident that you can think of as early in your childhood as you can. And then Joe will take you through the process so that you can really get unstuck from it and heal. Joe, I was watching this podcast yesterday, and she's a New York Times best-selling author, a great psychiatrist, and she was saying it is so critically important to change the narrative that we have about ourselves. If the narrative is negative, because that narrative is going to basically dictate the kind of life you are living right now in the present and in the future. Do you agree
Yes.
with that?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, the exercise that I will be sharing is all about how to do that moment by moment, managing your negative self-talk, creating a new narrative that supports you, and creating evidence for the new narrative. Because unfortunately, if your self-esteem has been diminished, you have created thousands of pieces of evidences that point to the fact that that's just the way you are, that's just the way
Yeah.
other people are, and that's the way the world is. The world is a
Mm.
place that perhaps doesn't hold women in high regard, that other people are mean and cruel to women, and
Mhm.
that there's something defective with me, not only because perhaps of your gender, but because of something inherently defective. And those are all lies. And that narrative is damaging. And if you've bought into it, the good news is you can reinvent the narrative in a way that empowers you. And every time you hear something that would have thrown you into a funk before, you now
Mhm.
get the ability to manage that thought. You now have the ability to step into your personal power and know that that is there for your development. So it's
Mm.
actually an exciting time for you right now because the the world is giving you time after time after time of trainings, opportunities, possibilities where you can redirect your future in a new way. And
Beautiful.
that's an exciting place to be right now for you.
Totally. I want to just give some instructions. I think most people have joined now, guys. If you remember from the last call, there are some buttons at the bottom of your screen. You can send us some reactions like hearts, show us some love whenever you like something, you connect with something, it's resonating with you. You can send us a thumbs up. You can also send us clapping, whatever. It's in the react button. That way we'll know, okay, what are you more engaging with, and we'll know if we need to go deeper. You also have the chat box where you can post comments. And if there are any specific questions, I will try to address those with Dr. Joe. And then towards the end of our interview, I may take one or two people who can ask questions from Dr. Joe on the screen. So I want to share with you, Joe. I've shared it before also, that when we weren't friends yet, you didn't even know I existed. I used to watch you on other people's shows. The first show that I came to, I remember when they were promoting the show, there was some information that was sent out, an email. I was recovering from my second divorce and was in a really bad place, right? And your email said that if you have had, relationship problems, you want success in life, you want to be happy, you want to raise children that are going to be happy and strong. Everything depends on this one thing, and that one thing is having a healthy self-esteem. And I was really surprised, honestly, because I hadn't stepped into self-development at that time, and I'm like, how can my unhappy marriage, how can these divorces, and it was my husband who abused me. What does that have to do with me not having healthy self-esteem? And I came to your call because I was very skeptical. Like, yeah, right. This guy is going to tell me that, everything is because of my lack of healthy self-esteem. And it was a game changer for me, listening to you, and because it finally made sense. I would love for you to, for the sake of our audience, talk about that a little bit. How is it that happy relationships, success in life, friendships, and so many things really is intrinsically tied to a healthy sense of self-esteem?
Well, Aram, if you look at all of the ills in the world, everything from school dropouts to poverty to drug and alcohol addiction to uh, wars, violence, it's all sourced in low self-esteem.
Yes.
And one thing that's very important to recognize is that when we buy into the fact that it's someone else's fault, then when I'm not condoning bad behavior, and there absolutely is a dance going on where in a relationship, it takes two partners to fight, it takes two partners to get along. And if one partner is of a cultural mindset that isn't supportive of the relationship, then you've really got some challenges to work through. But you have the ability to train people with respect to who you are, how they are to hold you, and what is permissible and what is not permissible in the relationship. So it's not like it's about blame or fault, but what it is if you have high self-esteem, you're not going to allow people to abuse you. You're going to let them know that that isn't so. And if we are to be together, I deserve respect, and I commit to giving you respect in return.
Mm-hmm.
And so things need to change. And I'm willing to work with you to discuss those changes, but it's important to hold yourself in high esteem. None of us are doormats. And if we have grown up thinking that we're less than or not good enough or somehow defective, then it's easy to buy into somebody else's cultural bias when it comes to that sort of prejudice, which is ignorant. And
Mm.
the good news is that when you hold yourself in high regard, you can train the world as to who you are and how they are to interact with you. So if you give up your right to be a victim, if you give up your right to be in your constant mood, and I'm going to just say a word about this now, and I'll give you more in the exercise. We are all addicted to an emotional reaction to life. And the four most common emotional reactions are anger, sadness, fear, and anxiety. And so that's the glue that keeps this whole misinterpretation mechanism in place. And it's invisible for most of us. So
Mm.
what happens is someone says or does something, and we go to our mood. We become angry. Why? We think that we're forceful. We get to make somebody else wrong. We get to avoid being dominated. We get to control them. There's a lot of contrary benefits to being angry, but it also damages the relationships. It also causes us great emotional upheaval.
Yeah.
For many people, sadness is something that they go to when they stuff the anger. 350 million people are addicted to sadness. Why? They scan for and create situations and people in their lives that make them sad. Not like they like being sad, but the depression, the sadness, it allows them to feel sorry for themselves. It allows them to evoke the pity of other people. It allows them to be victims. And so it's not my fault. I'm with an abuser. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the same with fear. People that are addicted to fear, 24% of women and 16% of men are put, they create a reality for themselves where they get to be afraid all the time. They get to be in a relationship that is fearful. They
Not
get to
safe.
live in a
Yeah.
part of the world that's dangerous. They get to do something that keeps the fear alive. And the last one is anxiety. Anxiety plagues millions of people, and it's very real. There are brain chemistry changes. There are times when drugs are needed in order to reverse the anxiety because the brain becomes so hyper aware of the dangers in the world. But the good news is that we can train ourselves to be at peace. We can train ourselves to be happy. We can train ourselves to be non-anxious, and we can train ourselves to look at what's missing that have put into place would support me right now. And who am I being that is causing this chronic situation to show up all of the time? So we'll
Mm.
talk more about that in a minute.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sarush is asking, what about resentment?
Yeah, resentment is a killer of relationships. Resentment typically involves lack of responsibility, not as blame and fault, But what happens is over time, when we are a victim, we resent someone's abuse. We resent someone doing something to us.
Mm.
And that takes all the responsibility away from us because it puts it on the other person. What is the question to ask yourself is, who am I being that the abuse constantly shows up? And what actions have I not taken? What have I not discussed? And I'm not minimizing the gravity of the situation. I know that in many cultures, it's unacceptable to have a personality. It's unacceptable to be a strong woman, for example, in a male-dominated culture. But you
Yeah.
still have the ability to do what you need to do to take care of yourself. So before you get married, after you get married, if you've made mistakes, admit that you made a mistake and decide who you're going to be. What are the qualities you want to be known for? Start to work on those qualities and give up your right to be invalidated. Give up your right to be a victim. Give up your right to be the person that doesn't support you any longer. And when
Yeah.
you act from that commitment, and there are so many tools out there in the world where you can actually learn a principle and then do an exercise that will have you become different because you'll see the world differently. And when you see the world differently, everything changes. And that's the good news. So
Yeah.
no matter how bad you think your situation is right now, there's great hope. And I know because I reinvented myself from an extreme introvert who made something up at 5 years old when I was bullied in the schoolyard and avoided people at all costs to deciding that that didn't serve me, that interpretation. And so, granted, it's a different scenario than most of our viewers here, but it's the same principle. If I can reinvent myself, you all can reinvent yourselves as well.
Yeah, and I can vouch for this that I've known Joe for a long time. Him and his lovely wife are two of the most amazing people I know. And one thing that is true always with high self-esteem, Joe, and I would love for you to comment on this, is that people with high self-esteem are generally going to be people, or always going to be people, that actually they are kinder, they are more authentic and truthful because their high self-esteem doesn't allow them to wear masks and to lie they're going to be honest. They are going to be uh, high achievers, as you said. But I find that high self-esteem, because people ask me this question, and I'm going to put that to you as well. High self-esteem and self-love sometimes are interchangeable, and people say, well, isn't self-love the same as being selfish? Why would you want to be selfish? And I always tell them, no, there's a big difference. People with high self-esteem are actually going to be people with a lot of humility. They're going to be humble because they're authentic. They're not out there trying to prove anything to anyone. Bullies, on the other hand, this was an eye opener for me after I heard your talk, that bullies are generally people with very low self-esteem. They have self-esteem issues and they are taking that out. So they're acting out their trauma in the form of bullying and abusing other people. And the fact that I kept attracting bullies into my life meant that somewhere I was playing that narrative
Yeah.
of, I'm this victim and this keeps happening to me. And so I get to be the victim. However, that's not really working out for me. That's not the kind of life I want. So the question that you had put in that call was, how long do you want to keep playing out that narrative, or do you want to change the narrative today so that you never have to deal with that situation again? And I did that exercise, which we're going to do in a few minutes. And frankly, it changed my life because once I changed the narrative, I do not need to keep attracting a bully into my life so that I can prove I am worthy. How about I accept that I'm worthy right now so that the bully doesn't have to show up in my life? And guess what? That was back in 2009 or 8. And no other bully has showed up into my life. So people think, oh, this one thing, changing this one thing will change my life. It's not magic, it's science. It makes sense. And yes, it will change your life. So I think we should now maybe, let's see how many. Yeah, we have enough people. So guys, I'm going to make the announcement again. what Joe wants you to do is pick something from your life, pick an incident where you felt less than, or you felt disrespected, or somebody abused you, and you have that. The closer it is to early childhood, the better. But somebody had asked, what if it's a recent event? I guess that's fine too, right? If it's still hurting you, then yeah, sure.
Yes.
And Joe is going to lead you through. I'll turn off my camera so people can focus on your instructions. There we go.
Okay, so the first thing I want to say before we get into the exercise is that people confuse high self-esteem with high ego, and they're exactly opposite. High ego is about the person, about wanting to be better than someone else, about wearing that mask because behind the ego, they think that they're not good enough. High self-esteem individuals also live by the golden rule, which is doing to other people as they would have them do to them. So it's a very different mindset. You're right, they are honest, authentic, because there's no need to cover up, because there's nothing to be ashamed of. So low self-esteem individuals are ashamed of who they are. And so they lack personal power. They don't think that they're significant. They don't think that they're virtuous. They don't think that they matter to other people. They don't feel competent. They don't have any of the qualities that high self-esteem people possess. And so high self-esteem has actually no downside to it. So let's get into that exercise now, if I could. So as Eram said, recall an early event if you can. If you can't, the last event that has some sort of sting to it, the last event that has the sort of emotional charge that you'd like to resolve. So the first question is, what happened? What did someone say or do? And these are the facts. So exactly what did they say? Exactly what did they do? After that, we can go to the interpretations. What did you make up about them and about yourself and about the world when they did or said whatever they did? And the third element here is a question. Are you willing to give up your right to be a victim? And are you willing to create an interpretation that moves you beyond the anger, the sadness, the fear, and the anxiety? Now, I mentioned those four traits because those are the more common, but I'm going to have you look at whenever you're in an upset. And if you're not sure about this, you can keep an upset journal where every time you're in an upset, you're going to write down these different questions that I'm giving you right now, and you're going to understand yourself better. And you're going to act from a declaration of the person that you've decided to be, a person with high self-esteem, a person who doesn't react emotionally. Because when you realize that 99% of an upset is about the person who's upset and 1% about the person who's supposedly causing the upset, then you can give up your right to be upset. You can be calm and at peace. You can be centered. You can be giving love into the world instead of retribution. You can give up your right to be resentful. You can give up your right to want bad things to happen to the other people, and then you're going to feel worse about yourself. So what was said? What did you make up about that? Are you willing to give up your right to be a victim? And are you willing to create a new interpretation around it? And the reason I ask those questions is because many times it's so juicy to not be creating a new interpretation that we will gravitate toward whatever gives us the most juice. Anger, boy, that was rotten. You're a rotten person. Sadness, why me, God? Why do I have to always be the one who is abused? Fear, what's going to happen next? Am I going to be thrown out of the house? Am I going to be hit? Am I going to be threatened? Whatever. Anxiety, when's the next shoe going to drop? What's going to happen while I'm sleeping? Whatever those thoughts are going through your head. Identify the predominant emotional reactive state, the mood that you find yourself in times of upset, and write that down. And be as specific as you can about describing what that looks like. For example, when I was bullied at about 5 years old, by some teenagers who threw me around, and I hit my head on the concrete and went home with a concussion and a big egg on my head. And I made up that I was small and insignificant. People were mean and cruel, and the world was a dangerous place. And I became indignantly angry. So indignant anger was my common emotional reactive mood. And every time someone would do something to me, and I'm putting that in quotes because they weren't doing it to me, they were doing it because of who they are. And I was taking it personally, even though it looked awful personal because they were bullying me, they were picking on me, but I was holding myself in a way that didn't support high self-esteem, didn't support people to respect me because I didn't respect myself. So that indignant anger showed up everywhere. Somebody was driving and cut me off, I would get indignantly angry. Somebody was smoking in a restaurant, I'd get indignantly angry. Someone would say something that I would take as an insult. Again, there's the same indignant anger. So identify how you're wired emotionally, because that's the glue that you are willing to give up, that keeps this whole misinterpretation mechanism in place. So release the emotion, count backward from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, taking deep breaths in between each number slowly. Get into a meditation program where you can calm yourself. Because if you're in this hyper reactive mode all of the time, then you're not operating out of your best self. You're operating out of instinct and about survival. And that is reactive mode, which doesn't support your relationships, doesn't support your own self-image, and it doesn't support your happiness. So are you willing to give up your right to be a victim? Are you willing to give up your right to be invalidated? And are you willing to give up your mood in that moment? If the answer is yes, release the emotion. Now, here's the important part that's going to shift it for you. Create a new interpretation about what just happened that allows you to maintain your self-esteem and move forward powerfully in life. So let me give you an example. Let's say that somebody yells and swears at you. And so your first reaction is fear, or it's anger, or it's sadness. How do they treat me so poorly? Whatever that is, or it's anxiety, they're going to hit me, whatever. So are you willing to give up that mood? Yes. Great. Create a new interpretation. One great interpretation is to try something on like a coat. Did I do something that is warranted of somebody's anger? So perhaps, did you start a fight? Did you call someone a name? If you did, recognize that you triggered an event. Apologize if necessary. Return yourself to your calm state. If you try on the coat and it doesn't fit, in other words, this upset is about the other person. This is not about me. Give up your right to be the victim. Give up your right to be in your mood, and realize that a new interpretation is possible here. And maybe that interpretation is that the other person just doesn't see the world in a way that supports them. The other person doesn't value the relationship as much. Perhaps the other person was trained by their parents how to react in relationships. So there's lots of interpretations that you can create. The next step, once you create the new interpretation, is take some action that's going to move you in the right direction. Perhaps you could use a coach that will support you to reinterpret your life and help you decide how to respond in areas that you're blind to. Because we're all blind to the areas where we don't know what we don't know. And we don't know how to get out of situations that have become common for us, that have become chronic for us, where we're constantly doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So ask yourself, am I willing to take some different action that's going to move me forward? So maybe it's coaching, maybe it's listening to a personal development program, maybe it's getting a friend to confide in. Maybe it's having a conversation with an abuser that says, I know that we have been going through this dance for a long time, but I've made a new commitment to peace and harmony in our lives. And I invite you to share that commitment with me. So here's what that's going to look like for me. It's going to look like not reacting to things that you say, and I'm going to do my best not to provoke you to react to me as well. So whenever we see that the dance isn't working, we're going to dance differently. We're going to stop the dance in such a way that we are each other's enemies, and we're going to support each other to develop personally, to reinvent ourselves, to be the kind of person we enjoy being with. And sometimes that's going to require some help. So once you take some action that serves you, now you've started to develop the new muscle. When you can keep this upset journal, as I call it, where you write down these questions and your observations in every time that there's an upset, and ask yourself, what worked about that last communication and what was missing that if put into place the next time would have a different result, would have peace and calm, would have me feel good about myself, would have someone respond differently than they did the first time. And commit to explaining to someone your path of personal development, and that you're going to try your very hardest to be different now. You're going to try to be non-reactive. These are the qualities you're going to develop. So pick the 4 top qualities that you'd like to develop and share them with your spouse or your significant other. And step into those qualities and ask yourself, what is it going to look like if I'm calm and centered? Maybe it's going to look like I don't react to every provocation. If I'm showing love, maybe I'm not going to be resentful and angry. If I'm a contributor to someone, maybe I'm not going to be looking for what they can do for me, but I'm going to be selfless. Not a doormat now, but focused on contribution until someone gets it. So there's lots of different paths forward. It's kind of like you're walking down a forest path and you come to a fork in the road. At that Y, when you can take a left path or a right path, you have a decision to make. What are the qualities I want to be known for? How am I going to respond to the provocation? Who am I being that is causing this to show up around me? And what will serve me best? What sort of action? So you can take the path you've always gone, let's call that the left-hand path, which is stepping over problems, which is blaming someone else, which is resenting, which is going into your mood of anger, sadness, fear, or anxiety. Or you could take the right-hand path, the path that aligns with the qualities that you want to be known for. The right-hand path is the path of heart, the path that shows love. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a doormat, but what it means is that since 99% of an upset is about the other person, you don't have to be in that drama cycle of upset. You can give up your right to be upset, and you can walk away if you need to walk away. You can inform them about what you're going to be doing that's going to create a different result. And you absolutely can do whatever it takes to be safe and to, if you see that the relationship isn't working and someone isn't willing to reinvent themselves in a way that harmony and peace and love are the predominant qualities that are building, then you have the ability to take care of yourself. You have the ability to do whatever it takes to be whole and to find someone who will respect you because you're worthy of that respect. So I'm going to stop there for a minute, Eram, see if there are any questions or comments or anything we can go into further.
All right, somebody just messaged, excellent, issue already resolved. That's fantastic. And would it not be us pretending to be the person we want to be and not being that person? That's a great question.
That is a great question. It's going to feel awkward first. Why? Because there's no heroin addiction in your arm like an emotional addict has. It's just as strong as heroin, the emotions.
Yeah.
So it's going to feel like you're pretending, but what you're doing is you're operating out of the qualities that you're looking to develop.
Yeah.
An example of that is when I was an extreme introvert, I was afraid of people. When I'd see people that I knew, I'd cross the street and put my head down, make off that I didn't see them. Why? Because I was afraid of being hurt. I soon became known as a big snob. Why? Not because I thought I was better than other people, because I thought I wasn't good enough. And so it felt awkward for us to go and say hello to someone. It felt awkward to ask them questions about themselves. It felt like I was a pretender. But what I was doing was exercising a new muscle of being social, which I didn't know how to do. And that just shifted everything. And you can do the same.
So, Sarush, it can happen in one take. Depends on how deeply you actually are able to accept this kind of thinking. How deeply can you engage with what Joe is talking about? It can happen in one take. And for those of you that need more practice, that need more guidance, we are actually going to talk about the two offers Joe has today, which I'm super excited about because I know many of you, many of my listeners are mothers or fathers. I know as everybody, all parents want to do what is best for their kids, want to raise kids that are confident, that are happy, that are well balanced. So again, um, raising children with high self-esteem is the key. And we will have a program for that as well. So stay put. We will be talking about that in just a few minutes. I just want to go back and talk about a few things you just shared, Joe. Actually, one of the key reasons, because I had studied psychology when I was in college, one of the key reasons each time that I got divorced, I opted to leave my marriage. Both marriages were abusive, was because of the fierce love that I had for my children. I did not want to raise them in an abusive environment where they are watching and learning from my behavior that if our mother is putting up with abuse, then that is a form of love or that is how it needs to be. And then they would grow up and they would put up with abuse from other people. And I always say this, I am so grateful to my dad who raised me in a manner that even though I did put up with it for a while, it gave me the strength to walk away because my dad always treated me as if, I was the greatest thing on the planet. So we don't even know as parents, we don't even realize how much we affect our children, how much of this negative self-talk we're teaching them. Um, I've also noticed, Joe, in my coaching practice when I'm working with couples that have issues and want to resolve issues, people with low self-esteem do not fight fair. They do not fight fair.
Yeah.
They're not very good listeners because everything, any kind of feedback that the partner has becomes an attack on them. They take it very personally, as if, like, oh, you're saying I'm this, and they go into the whataboutism and all that stuff. And people with a healthy sense of self-esteem are able to actually resolve conflict in a much better way, and they are able to get there faster as well. And then you probably are aware of the Gottman study, the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and it talks about these four traits that if a couple has this behavior in their relationship, then the chances that they will break up or end up in divorce are extremely high, like almost 90% plus accuracy that they predicted. And they are contempt, criticism, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And I know you're nodding because you can probably see that people with so low self-esteem will almost always exhibit these behaviors.
Yeah.
So it is so critically important to not just develop a healthy sense of self-esteem in ourselves, but to make sure we look for partners that exhibit a healthy sense of self-esteem. I know, there are some gentlemen here in the call too, and I want to welcome you guys. Thank you for being here. And being a woman, I tend to go into examples of, men being bullies. But as you probably know from your practice too, Joe, that women can be equally abusive. Their ways are different. Their methodologies are different. I will share this with you. I have a student who is my mentorship client. Her dad signed her up for taking coaching from me. And I adore her. She's such a beautiful, adorable person. And what she wanted to get coaching from me, she's not married yet. She hasn't even met somebody that she likes. But the focus of the initial coaching was, she said, teach me how to find a man who will never ever cheat on me and who will never ever even look at another woman when he's married to me. And I'm like, sweetheart, we don't even know who this man is yet. How about we work on you? She's like, no, 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 no. I want you to teach me what can I do to make sure that my husband never finds another woman even attractive. Even if we're watching a movie, I don't want him to look at the actress and find her sexy or hot.
Mm.
And so as you can imagine, I kept telling her, I can't do anything about that. Anybody who tells you that they can help you find a man or change a man to become this, they're lying. The only thing I can help you change is develop such a healthy self-esteem that even if your husband is watching a movie with you and saying, "Oh my God, she's hot," and you go, "Yeah, she is." And she's like, no, never. I will never say that. So she's, of course, young. And for me, she's cute. And I'm going to continue to work on her self esteem. But isn't that true that, Joe, with that kind of a mindset, if I let her loose and she ends up in a marriage, she's going to be a very controlling person and it's going to end up into a disaster.
Yes. You're
Yeah.
you're absolutely right with respect to the men who are listening. There's this dance that we spoke about, and oftentimes women will do things that provoke a bad response. Why? They get to be right about how they held them. They get to feel sorry for themselves. They get to stay in that pity mode. They get to
Yeah.
be angry when somebody responds in a way that they knew would make them angry. So it's a combination of responsibilities here. Both people need to take responsibility for their communication. And with respect to what I would advise that woman to do is I would say you can't you can't do anything about human attraction. That's going to be there for all people. But
Yeah.
here's what you can do. You can look for people who are committed to honoring their commitments as opposed to what's convenient. Because
Yeah.
if you
Oh.
look at people that cheat, people that drink, people that abuse drugs, people that resort to stealing or violence or bad behavior, why? It's because they're not clear about what they're committed to. So
Mm-hmm.
they do whatever is convenient at the time. They're weak because they operate out of convenience. So when you know that you're looking for a man who operates out of commitment, and that's what you are operating out of, that's easy to tell because you're going to get to know the person as you go along, and you're going to observe if that person is easily influenced and does things spontaneously that don't serve them, or if the person is values based and operates out of commitment. If their word means anything, if when they make a promise, they're willing to keep the promise. Now, it doesn't mean that people have to be perfect. We're all fallible. We all make mistakes. But when somebody makes a mistake, do they clean up the mistake? Do they apologize? Do they admit that they didn't see something or they made something a bad decision, or do they blame you for it? So those are the qualities that you would look for in a person to have a harmonious relationship.
I love that. I'm so grateful that you shared that. And yes, Surush, a high self-esteem person will also have self-control because of what Joe was just talking about. When you are committed to your dignity, your dignity is so important to you that even if something is attractive in the moment, even if something is, you like Joe said, convenient or fun, your sense of self dignity is so strong it does not allow you to do that. The level of attractiveness for that thing or for that person is strong, but your self-esteem is stronger, therefore it holds you back. And I'm reminded, Joe, I, of course, teach a lot about Islamic spirituality as well, or any religion that has, when you look at the spirituality of that religion, you'll find all religions, that's why I say the same thing. When you talk about morality and ethics, you will find that across the board, all religions are saying the same thing. And for you guys who are Muslims, Remember that our dear prophet, peace be upon him, was known for his integrity. Before he was given prophethood all across Arabia, he was known for his high integrity. He was known as the honest one and the truthful one. And if you study the life of Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, you will find that it was a life of very high self-dignity. Everything he did was dignified. Even when he, in the face of abuse, when he would forgive people, it was because he was very kind, but at the same time, because his sense of dignity was so high, even when he could take revenge from people, he chose not to, right? So people who have a high self-dignity, you will find, are going to be people who are kinder, who will be more forgiving, and they will have more empathy for other people. Um, so
Eram,
somebody's
can I add one thing?
yes, please, Joe. Yeah.
That when you commit to a personal reinvention, when you commit to being different in the world, give yourself some leeway. It's okay to be bad until you get to be good, because you're developing new habits. So what is going to happen at first is that you're going to say, "Oh, I reacted again. I can't do it." You learned something from that time. Write down your insights in your journal. What did you learn? Commit to doing better the next time. What worked and what was missing that, if put into place, would support me the next time? When you do a habit over 30 days, it becomes part of who you are. So hang in there. Know that it takes a while. Don't think that there's an instant fix, but know that you can do it. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes, to the point where you don't even think about it anymore. But give yourself some space. Love yourself enough to know that it's not going to happen overnight. If you have a history of months or years or decades of acting in a certain way. But when you're in development, the game changes. Understand the principle, do the exercise, and your life changes because you see things differently.
Yeah, beautiful. And yes, you can do this at any age. 30s is very, very young, my dear. So yes, you can still do it. I started practicing at 40. So yeah. I want to just acknowledge a couple of people here. Bijoy, I'm so happy to see you here. So humbled, so grateful. Bijoy Mahanti is one of our listeners from FHTJ, Joe, and just a beautiful, beautiful soul, very humble, very service oriented. Thank you for being here, sir. And I want to also, Mirette is in the house. Mirette is a coach like yourself. She's an EFT coach. I'm so honored you're here, Mirette. And Sabahat, welcome. All of these are my previous students also. There's a question. Afsana is saying, Eram, when I did your 30 days transformation course, my life changed. But eventually I lost control over myself, stopped practicing, and found myself disconnected with Allah. What should I do? Well, this is one of the things I teach in the courses. You've got to keep practicing. This is what Joe is talking about too. You got to keep practicing. What can you do at this time? Either you can join the Eagle Tribe, which is where we continuously practice the same things you learn in 30 days so that over a year it becomes like second nature to you. Or we're going to be talking about Joe's offers in just a few minutes. You can take that as well. Somebody's saying that's such a good phrase. It's okay to be bad, to be good. Okay. How to avoid being agitated when you're talked over, as if your voice wasn't heard by anyone. Again, when you're getting agitated, so basically you are reacting, not responding. When you do these practices enough, like what Joe was talking about, this is a sign of emotional intelligence. Somebody says something that offends you or hurts you. It's going to happen. Still happens to me, right? I get abused on social platforms daily. And it still hurts, still bothers me at times, even makes me angry. What you got to do is, there's got to be, if you can allow yourself with these practices, what you will gain is the time it takes you to react. Like, say, in reaction, you say something or you lash out or you type something. That's an immediate reaction. Allow yourself to just breathe, do the exercises Joe talked about. That gives you some space between the event and then the reaction. Once you allow that space, now you will be able to respond instead of reacting, because reacting is from a very visceral place, and sometimes we say things we regret later on. And do you want to add anything to
I'd
that?
love to add something.
Yeah, please.
You know, if you're in that reactive mode where you're so used to saying that's not fair, you know, it's not the way it was and all of that. Think of a balloon that has air in the balloon. Until you can let all of the air out of the balloon, you're going to have resistance. So a great technique is to start practicing your listening. Listen for the possibility of a breakthrough. And when you listen, if somebody is saying something to you and you know you have all of these retorts ready to go, tell yourself, I'm going to listen through it. So listen, ask, say, is there anything else? You know, I need you to tell me everything that you think, because before I respond to you, I want you to be heard. And my commitment now is to hear you so that you're honored and heard. So please keep telling me everything that you want to tell me. And listen, resist the urge to butt in there and say, yeah, but no, that's not true. Listen. The more you listen, the more you will create a listening to be heard. So when
Yeah.
you're done and there's nothing more to say, all the air is out of the balloon, then ask a question like, can I give you some feedback on how I see the situation? And if the person says no, don't give the feedback, because they're in confrontation mode. They're not willing to hear it. Okay. When you're willing to get some feedback, please let me know, because now you get to tell them about your commitments. I'm committed to peace and harmony and to listening better. And so these are the qualities that I'm developing. When you'd like to learn about them, I'm happy to share them with you. And until you are, I won't. So,
Yeah.
you know, when you push against someone else, they're going to push back. And
Yeah.
when you stop pushing, they're not gonna have the force to continue, because it's about being right, about who can dominate, who can be in control. And when you realize that you're worthy, you don't have to defend yourself, because you know the truth in your heart. And when you can create that opening for someone else to listen to something differently by not opposing them, then a whole new way of communicating is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this thing about listening is so important, because majority of us don't know how to listen. We just want to, while the other person is talking in our head, we're already formulating the response, right? Oh, this is what I'm, oh no, I just caught you in this thing. Let me tell you this. And that's not how conflict gets resolved. And Adam is saying how to build your self-esteem. Can you build it yourself or need help from someone? It is always better to get a coach. We're going to be talking about this in just a few minutes. Before that, though, I want to see if one of you or two of you want to talk to Joe. If you got stuck in the exercise, or if you just simply have a question, please raise your hand. And the way you do that is, I think it's in the, yeah, when you go to react button, and then just click on raise hand, and then we'll pick a couple of people from there. So as we were talking about relationships, you know, because I know you and your wife, you've been married for how long now?
40 years.
Oh my goodness, 40 years. And I know you, whenever I see you two together, it's like the whole world is when the two of you are together, that's your world, right? It's just such a great camaraderie and companionship. And yet at the same time, you're very friendly and approachable for other people as well. And I quote this Harvard study often, that when they've followed people for, you know, a number of years, like a few decades, and they discovered that the level of happiness or the sense of contentment that a person enjoys from life is directly can be attributed to the quality of relationships that they have in life, be it marriage, friendship, siblings, parents, cousins, all those things. And now we know that emotional intelligence is a big deal now. Corporations prefer to hire people with a high quotient on emotional intelligence. And healthy self-esteem is one of the cornerstones. You cannot have emotional intelligence without having a healthy sense of self-esteem, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So sometimes to continue listening means you are admitting other stupid people. All right. So right there, there's a judgment, my dear. I won't go too much deeper into this, but right there you have a judgment that somebody's stupid and you don't want to listen to them. Well, if it's a meaningful relationship, if it's somebody important to you, is that the way you want to label them, first of all? And if it's an important enough relationship, then it behoves you. You gotta figure out what's on their mind. And I would even encourage you to question, why would you call them stupid? Are you willing? This is a radical thought. Are you willing to acknowledge that maybe there is a part of you that feels you're stupid and is projecting that onto the other person? It's not a good word. I know that's not a word that we want to use, but I have found that whenever there's a strong reaction and we label people based on that strong reaction, there is a part of us that we just don't want to see, but that's how we label that part and we project. So I want to see, are there any hands raised? And let's go and talk to them. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to unmute Adam. Adam, you are on. Hello, Adam. Can you unmute yourself?
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, Adam.
Hi. Thank you for adding me. I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Um, how to accept and give love, especially when you are from a family when you are young, you haven't received much love from your family, and when you grow up, you don't understand the meaning of love, and especially when you receive love, you feel like running away, or you
Hmm.
don't understand um, the relationships and things around it. So yeah, how to accept love from others.
First, I want to just say thank you so much, Adam. Took courage to ask that question. So thank you so much. A beautiful question, and I'm going to let Joe answer that.
Well, when you are a student of exploring what does it mean to love and to give love and to receive love, that's one of the qualities that you're going to be developing. So here's a time when standing in the question, moment by moment, asking yourself, what would it mean for me to love and show love to someone? Or how can I be receptive to love and create a loving environment as opposed to a hostile environment? So remember when I said recognize the 4 top qualities you'd like to develop? For you, my invitation would be that would be one of the top 4 qualities. Because even though you grew up in an environment where love wasn't demonstrated or readily available or shown, you absolutely, just because of where your mindset is right now, you have the ability to explore that. You have the ability to attract loving relationships because, that old cliche, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So put yourself into, for example, groups or situations where you share common interests with people, so that you can have something in common to speak about. Ask yourself a few questions like this. If I were to be a teacher of love, how would I respond in this interaction with people? Would I acknowledge them for something? Would I compliment them and let them know what a contribution they were to me for some reason? Would I smile at them and do a kind gesture, maybe open a door? Um, it's the small things. It's in your energy. So we are so used to protecting ourselves and putting on the mask where we can't be weak, we can't be vulnerable. But if you're committed to being a demonstrator of love, then it means being vulnerable, not in a weak way, but using love as a strength. And when you do that, you would maybe tell one on yourself, I've never been comfortable with people, but you have a great smile and you make me feel at ease. Just something that I found that when you tell one on yourself, something that you would have usually hidden, it opens up a channel for someone else to be authentic with you. So authenticity is a great part of love. Contribution is a great part of love. Being humble and not arrogant is a great part of love. And being concerned about asking yourself, how can I make somebody's day better than I found them? I took that on years ago and it changed my life because, I was so used to looking to be offended that when I started asking that question, I started smiling at people more. I started complimenting them. I started asking them a question about something that had them open up and make their day a little bit better. And I don't know what that's going to be because you have to ask yourself the question in the moment to know what your intuition will tell you to say. But the more you develop it, the easier it becomes. And that's what I mean about being a student of love.
Beautiful. I love that. And Adam, are you who I think you are? Are you there? Um,
No.
no? Okay. Because
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
you're very welcome. And I would add to this, um, because I see this a lot, that we have women, in our culture from India and Pakistan, where they're raised with low self-esteem, they're usually abused, they're just constantly dealing with this unhappy home environment. And a lot of times, as you know, Joe, victims of abuse will become abusers as well. And we see this kind of atmosphere where men who have been raised by such women are hurting deeply. And I was so happy when Adam asked this question, because a lot of times they have no clue what it feels like actually to be loved. So they have no idea what love is. And I would encourage you again, study the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, because here we have someone whose father died pretty much at birth, and then at the age of 8 he lost his mother, and he was raised by other people, yes, relatives, but he did not get the healthy home environment that every child should. And yet he was known as Rahmatul lil Alameen, love and mercy for the entire universe. And we see that in his life. So maybe begin really by making this commitment to loving yourself. And the way I did it was making a commitment to accept God's love into my heart, accepting that I am worthy of love from God. And a lot of times in our culture, because of the rhetoric we keep hearing from scholars, is God doesn't love you if you're a sinful person. God doesn't da 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 da. And I'm sorry, all of that is not true, because God says you deserve my love because you're human, you're my creation. I love you. And we're all sinful. Accept that as broken, sinful, bad, whatever I am still loved by God. Once you start accepting love into your heart, fill it up. Fill it up for yourself first, because you can't give to others what you don't have for yourself. You can never do that. So if you have resentment and hatred and lack of confidence and all of those things in your heart for yourself, that's what you're going to give to others. You know, your cup will overflow with whatever you fill it with. So fill it up with love, and you will automatically be loving. You won't be able to help it. It's just gonna be who you are. Joe?
And return yourself to love when you find that you're not. So it's
Yes.
as easy as developing the habit. So when you find yourself reacting or acting in a way that is lacking love, stop, remind yourself of your commitment, and ask yourself, how can I show love in the moment? And then do whatever. Your intuition is very powerful. It's sourced in your higher self, your God self, your spiritual self that guides us all. And when we are in reactive mode, we lose touch with that spirituality. When we're in touch with our spirit's guidance, and this applies to everyone in every religion, then we trust our intuition, because our intuition is always there to guide us. It's not that negative self-talk. It's just the opposite of that. The negative self-talk keeps us on the treadmill trying to do better, knowing that we're not, or tries to protect us from getting hurt. But when we realize who we really are, we have a solid, peaceful sense of that, where nobody can pull our strings or press our buttons, because we know who we are. And if somebody says something that intuitively isn't a fit, then we don't have to react. We don't have to take it personally. We don't have to be offended. We don't have to get them back. We just start to hang around people that you have an affinity for, people that respect you and that you can respect in return. People that show love. Hang around people that are kind and generous. And the best way to do that is for you to start being kind and generous, maybe volunteering for some things where you give of your time. That will open up huge pathways and doorways for you, because you'll see how much people appreciate and love you and respect you for your selfless contribution, as opposed to waiting for people to give things to you and then being angry when they don't. So
I want to ask you a question here, Joe. You talk about the selfless contribution. I get that. However, for the sake of our audience, because there is this notion in this culture, in the South Asian culture, that you keep sacrificing, which basically means keep putting up with abuse, keep putting up with people dishonoring you, hurting, crossing your boundaries, hurting your self-dignity. And it seems to be very glorified, as if, oh, look at that person, they're so selfless, or they're so patient. What would you say to that? That's not really
well, being a doormat, it doesn't contribute to anyone. We have to train people on who we are, that we're worthy of love, that we're worthy of respect. And as long as you have that doormat mentality where, bring it on, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, then people are going to hold you just as you hold yourself as not worthy. So my invitation to you is to change your paradigm. Just because someone or a culture has communicated that it's okay to treat people poorly at times, it's never okay for anyone to treat anyone else poorly. And if you express that and you stand by that, while not reacting, remember that listening, being non-reactive, and listen to understand. So what is it like in the other person's world that would have them say such a thing to me, meaning that they're not really saying it to me, they're just saying it because it's about them. So remind yourself, whenever you hear abuse or you hear unkind words or actions from other people, I ask myself, what must it have been like in their upbringing for them to be like that? We do courses around the world, and in the course, we have an exercise where we take 10 people and we stand them all facing toward the wall. The first person's right near the wall, and everyone is lined up behind them. And I go behind number 10 and I push hard on number 10. And what happens? They're close together. So number 10 bumps into number 9, bumps into 8. Before you know it, there's a chain reaction. So I create a frame and I ask person number 10, what just happened? He says, you pushed me. Okay. So I ask number 9, and we create a frame of 9 and 10. And I ask number 9, what happened? The person behind me pushed me. Okay. So if that's your framework, if that's how you see the world, somebody pushed you, but you don't know that they were pushed. And maybe they were pushed by, an abusive parent. Maybe they were pushed by someone who had been pushed all their lives and was didn't grow up with love. So it serves you to ask yourself, what must it be like in that world for someone to be a bully, for someone to be abusive, for someone to be unkind? And so it's not that you condone that behavior. We never condone bad behavior. But when it's not personal, we get to understand it better. We get to not be at the effect of it. We get to forgive them for their frailties and look for ways to impact them by our example, by showing an example of how we are being when we are with other people. Do we respect other people? Do we easily react to them? Do we get offended easily? Or do we show love? And so by being transparent and vulnerable and telling people what we're working on, oftentimes that gives them the space to be vulnerable and transparent with us, to and have an invitation, say, I'm working on these qualities. I'd be honored if you join me in working on them too, so we can support each other. And so when we make mistakes, which we will, we're not going to react to each other. We're going to support each other in a way where maybe we're going to remind ourselves of our commitments. So one exercise I like to give people is make a list of all the commitments that you can think of, every commitment in regard to every possible scenario. And so it's going to be an ongoing list that you're going to constantly add to every day. And in addition to that list, you're going to write a vision for what your dream life looks like. It could be 5 years out, it could be a year out, it could be a month out or 6 months out. It doesn't matter. But who are you being? What are the qualities you're working on? What are you having in your life with respect to not only peace and harmony and love, and who's going to be in your life? Pets and plants and physical possessions and things that make you happy. And so being, having, doing. What are you doing on a daily basis at work and at play that supports you to grow spiritually and personally? And who are you contributing to? Because if it's all about you, nobody's going to be inspired. So, do some things that are of contribution and it'll come back to you tenfold. So when you can write that vision out in first person present tense, as if it's already transpired, you see your life as if I'm living my dream life in love and, with the person of my dreams. We're kind to each other. We constantly edify each other. We are abundant. We're happy. We contribute to people who are less fortunate than we are. And you read that every day, and in the morning when you wake up, as if it's already happened, not I will be, but I am. And at night before you go to bed. And then you rewrite the vision monthly, because as you achieve certain aspects of the vision, other aspects will show up for you to include or detract from your vision. So it's a living tool in an environment that's always there. So be a student of personal development, personal reinvention. That's the reason why we started the Center for Personal Reinvention, because we all have reactive natures. We all have flaws that we either give power to, or we could give power to our higher selves, the good part of us. And the more we develop those good qualities, the more they'll take over, the more they'll be present for us, and the more we'll attract people with similar energies. So if you would have attracted someone that isn't, or multiple relationships in your life that isn't a fit for you, start looking to expand your realm of relationships. Be the person you want to attract, and your energies will be consistent, and you'll start attracting love and the things that you really want.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Joe. And the thing is, guys, you already are committed. It's not like if Joe is asking you to make a commitment, it's not like it's something brand new you've never done in your life. You are committed. What you're committed to, take a look at your life. That's what you're committed to. And if you want a different life, you have to commit to something different. And if you're questioning, oh, but my life is, maybe this sounds good, but is it going to happen for me? My life is really complicated. I'm unique. I have too many problems. Well, Joe shared his life with you, and I shared with you that the first time I heard Joe on a show back in 2009 or 10, I was bankrupt, was going through a bankruptcy, was dealing with the aftermath of my second divorce, was not quite divorced yet, mother of two beautiful daughters, but a single mom, had no idea what I'm going to do with my future, and had a lot of mental health issues as well. And today, here we are, 2025, here we are. So life can change, and it does take a commitment. Even God doesn't help you unless you make a commitment, unless you ask for help, and then you take some action, right? So the question is, what do you want to commit to? It's as simple as that. What do you want to commit to? Change the narrative around that, and I promise you, your life will change. There's not a rocket science to it. I want to now also talk about the two amazing courses that people can take with you, Joe. So guys, if you want to type in, Natasha, if you're here, can you please post the link in chat? The JamaliLifeShow.com/Joe25. I will go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. So Joe, we have two offers from you today. I specifically asked for the second offer for children because a lot of our audience is really committed to being a good parent. They want to raise children with high self-esteem. These are your two courses. If you could tell us a little bit about each.
Sure. Well, these courses stem from my commitment, which is my vision, is to impact 20 million adults and 20 million children. And so I realized that I could only do so many interviews. I could only speak before so many people. I could do so many courses or coach so many individuals. But if I put everything that I've learned through 30 years of personal development into some courses that contain books, audios, videos, and tools, then I could teach people to teach people to teach people. Now, both of these courses are optionally, they have an optional component of being a certified coach. Most people who take the courses don't care about that, but it's an optional bonus. It's included at no extra cost. So if you want to use the same principles that I have taught others now for 35 years, then you have the ability to teach others these same principles. But most people take the adults course because they're like Eram and I have been, feeling as though there's something missing in our lives, that we're not fully happy, we're not fully abundant, we're not fulfilled, we don't have rich relationships everywhere. I've used these principles to reinvent my life and to create the Center for Personal Reinvention. So if you're an adult, meaning over 18 years of age, I would encourage you to do the adult course here. If you want to have your children grow up in a way where you can now teach them the principles that would have them become fulfilled and at peace and empowered to live their lives in spite of the background maybe that you've been through or that they've been exposed to. It's never too late to teach these principles and to live by the principles. Now, these courses are both optional certification programs, so you can teach these principles if you like, but you need not. Many people who take the children's programs are either parents, grandparents, coaches, teachers. There are 31 key principles in the children's course. If you learn a principle, and there are exercises to teach the child to understand and become the principle. Same for the adult program. There's about 50 in the adult program. They're totally different. When you understand a principle and you see the world differently, you become different. But the exercises make it come home for you. So for example, The exercise that I gave today about living an upset-free life, that's one of about 50 in the adult course. So you see the principle is to not be reactive and not be run by your emotional addictive moods. The exercise gives you a structure so that you now develop that principle. So you ask yourself the questions that I asked you, what did someone say? What did you make up about what they said or did? Are you willing to give up your right to be a victim and in your emotional mood? Are you willing to release the emotion and to create a new interpretation that empowers you? And what action can you take to move your life forward? So when you do that principle, you see life differently. Now, what if you had 51 more principles or so that would change your life? Every principle is life-changing if you take it on. And for children, there are 31 principles. So what if you could teach your kids principles that will have them see the world as, I'll give you an example of a children's principle, the 99-1 rule, that 99% of an upset is about the person who's upset and only 1% about the person causing the upset. So you're teaching children to be non-reactive. You're teaching children to ask questions like, what's it like in the other person's world when they're dealing with the bully? So instead of be angry at them and about getting them back or about fearing them, you're going to take steps that show them how they can protect themselves and how they can have empathy for what it's like in that other person's world, how they can forgive. And the forgiveness is not about the person they're forgiving. It's so that they don't grow up an angry, resentful person. How they can start to focus on gratitude instead of all the things that are wrong in their lives. So again, there are all separate principles here that are life-changing. And for those of you that want to be, I call our team of light bearers, I'd encourage you to take the certification exams, which are multiple choice exam of 100 questions, 70% passes. And you can go and you can speak to other people about this. You can teach other people these principles. You can be paid as a coach to do these things.
Yeah.
So that's all optional, but if you just do it for your own benefit and the benefit of your family, you will change lives. And I thank you for your time and wish you Godspeed.
No, we thank you, Dr. Joe, because I mean, you have made it very, very accessible. Each of the courses 95% off for you guys. So each is just $48, $47. I would recommend getting both because a lot of relatives take the course for the kids. Grandparents take the course because they want to invest. We all as parents have guilt that we messed up our kids. And, maybe we didn't have these courses in time so that we could raise our children better, but now we can do it for our grandchildren at least. Or like Joe said, you can become a certified coach. And what a great service it would be because you would be helping people get over their self-esteem issues, but also helping a lot of parents learn how to raise kids in a better way. A lot of people I know listening to me right now, as we had Adam talk about it too, there's a lot of dysfunctional behavior in the families of Indo-Pak subcontinent, frankly, because we're late to the game of, self-development, mental health. A lot of people still have this attitude that, oh, mental health is just, it's nothing. There's nothing wrong with me. Only crazy people go to therapy and stuff like that. So no wonder we are raising kids with a lot of problems. And as I have been talking about this, that the divorce rates in Pakistan and India are skyrocketing, not because, suddenly something is wrong with people. It's simply because now people have options, and the dysfunctional relationships that seem to kind of go under the radar, people wouldn't get divorced because they didn't have the choice of divorce. Now we're just seeing the dysfunction that was always there. Now we're seeing it more on the surface in divorce rates, and divorce can be extremely detrimental. Even though I talk about being divorced twice because I walked out on abusive marriages, it's not something that is ideal. I wish I didn't have to be in an abusive marriage to then go through a divorce, because it does have an impact on your children, no matter how hard you try to minimize the impact. So that's what I say to people is, instead of trying to change the ending, let's focus, let's commit to changing the beginning. Let's become healthier ourselves. Let's find partners that are healthy so that we can marry them and have healthy children. Or if we are in a marriage which is dysfunctional and unhealthy, we can still commit to transforming it and making it healthier. And I can tell you guys, talk to any mental health professional. One of the key reasons for addictions, which are also skyrocketing right now, suicide rates in young teens and young children and young adults are at an all-time high, both in men and women. And these are issues that are directly or indirectly impacted by self-esteem. So the disease that we need to be really focusing on and helping the world heal from is, self-esteem issues, the wars that we're having. How can human beings treat each other this way? Because somebody was a victim at some point, and because of that victim mentality is now victimizing others. So much in this world can be healed by healing self-esteem of people and raising self-esteem so that we all have dignity and empathy and love towards respect towards each other. This is, I feel ashamed, Joe. I feel embarrassed that this is the kind of world we have created, and this is what we are giving to our children. We have failed them. We have failed them, but it's not too late, right?
Eram, can you imagine if every leader in every country was steeped in personal development and respect for other people? How there wouldn't be need for nuclear weapons. There wouldn't be need for any weapons. There would be just, it would be.
We would know how to resolve conflict. We would know how to
Yes.
listen to each other. We would be able to respect what belongs to the other people as theirs instead of trying to pillage and steal. Yeah, self-esteem is, I actually say, Joe, that the voices we hear in our head that create low self-esteem are voices from the devil. And the voice, the tiny voice sometimes when we haven't practiced self-esteem, a tiny voice that reminds us you are loved, you are worthy, that voice is from our ruh, from our spirit, because that's from God. That's the truth. So in a way, this is a battle between good and evil. And just like anything else, so within, so without, it starts with you. The battle starts first and foremost in here, inside you. When we can snuff out that voice of the devil that's saying all those nasty things to us and allow our hearts to be open to love. And I love that people can choose to do certification in each of these. Become a coach, guys. This is what I do, right? Many of you are here because you've watched my videos, even if they're free, and it had some kind of an impact. This is one of the best things you can do right now. So become a coach. Take advantage of this amazing offer from Joe. Again, it is at the jamaliliveshow.com/Joe25. When you click each of these, you will be able to get more information. It'll take you to a different page. And if you have any questions, you can ask us. And Shazia is saying, I want to learn about children. I work with kids. This will be of great help. This is awesome. If you're already working with kids, then it's a must for you to do this course because there's so many, Joe, it used to be like, I remember a teacher who had such an impact on my life. And when I think about it, she was just very encouraging of me. She would give me positive feedback, and it made me believe in myself in ways that perhaps I didn't otherwise. So imagine if you can be that person who can have an impact on so many children's lives. So can you talk a little bit more about the certification? People have questions about that.
Sure. Yes. You're certified by the Center for Personal Reinvention, and you pass the exam. You get an emailed certificate that's suitable for printing and for framing. And you can take the exam up to 2 times to pass it. So I'd encourage you to study the material. Any one of these principles can be life-changing. So if there's 50 something in one course and 31 in the other, I just can't imagine that if you're committed to changing your life, sharing these principles with people that you love can change their lives forever.
Yeah.
And I would just ask you to consider, what is it costing you to not take some action? If you don't want to take these courses, that's fine, but do something that is
Yeah.
going to move your life forward, because we all have to take responsibility for anything around us that's showing up that isn't to our liking. And if we do the same things that we've always done, we're going to get the same results we've always had.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely.
that's about, telling yourself a story that, oh, I'm this way or that way, or you don't know my life or whatever. And, I've worked with millions of people, and many of them had lives that were unbelievably sad, and they had no hope. And it takes a while to transform, but one principle on top of another principle. When you understand that the world, everybody's in survival mode, and that's why the world is the way it is. And it need not be like that. So when you take yourself out of that survival mode, when you see what it's costing you to be in that survival mode and to be in that reactive state and to have the low self-esteem, and it's just not about self-esteem. It's about being fulfilled, about being happy, about being able to pursue your passions. It's about contributing your gifts to other people. Do you even know what your gifts are? Are you developing your gifts? Do you have a life purpose? These are all principles in the programs. So when you understand how impactful one principle can be, and you can share that with the people that you love, you can stop living like I did for the first 35 years of my life, which is in resignation. And when you live in resignation, it's like, poor me, there is no hope. These are the cards I was dealt. And that's the lie. And the good news is that we all have the ability to learn and to grow and to take the focus off of our own petty concerns and to start playing a master game, which is about, what are you here on this planet for? Are you, self-absorbed and just feeling sorry for yourself? Or are you making it your responsibility to grow beyond your circumstances and to use them? Like, for example, the bullying episodes that I had throughout my childhood, I now thank God for those, because they were the impetus for me to go into this work. And, I studied this work intently every day for 10 years. And, I had some great mentors and great tutors. And if it wasn't for them, I'd still be the introverted dentist that was going nowhere with my life and contributing, very little on the scale of things, because I was too concerned with people knowing how I held myself in such low self-esteem and low value.
Well, and there's value to having something that has been well researched. You have found, okay, these are the most important principles. This is how I can teach them. And you have them in a structured method where you can go through the course, even if you want to repeat it. So there's value to all of that. And frankly, the price is negligible. And if you can get a certification with that, awesome, you can start a career, especially if you are, in this community. I can tell you guys, there is such a shortage of good coaching, of good life coaching. Most of the people are just, they have no clue what they're talking about. So if whether you live in Pakistan or India or Bangladesh, or you live in one of the Western countries, you can make a living doing this. And I can tell you from experience that it is a very fulfilling way to make a living, because you're not just earning money, you're also impacting people's lives in a way that could be detrimental for generations. So how awesome is that? And by the way, since most of you are Muslims, that's Sadqa Jariyah. So you are going to be continuously blessed. Somebody wants to know if their 24-year-old daughter can take the children's course so that she can coach her younger brother who is 15. I would say the whole family should take the course. If you're going to buy it, you all can take it, but only one person can get officially certified. So that's the only thing. But yeah, you should all take it. Can we do both the courses? That is my recommendation, because both of them are really almost 95% off. I would recommend take both the courses.
Very different too. If
They're
you
very
find
different.
that you're not a 10 in the 6 key areas of life, your health and appearance, your wealth and finances, your job or your career, your relationships, the area of your personal and spiritual development, and having fun and pursuing your passions, living your life purpose. If you're not a 10 in those areas, then something's missing that can be put into place to have you reach a 10. So start with the adult course so that it's kind of like putting on your own oxygen mask in the plane that's going down. Then you can help somebody else. So you'll learn so many principles from both courses, but you know, I tell parents and grandparents this all the time. Until you're in personal development, don't expect your children or your grandchildren to listen to you because, do it as I say, not as I do, that sort of thing. So the adult program for me is essential. It should
Starting
be
point.
taught in every school, I think, because
I
I wish
agree.
I had it when I was in school. And
I
then
totally
you
agree.
can now learn the principles in the children's course and teach them to children, because the children's course isn't meant to be taken by children. It's meant to be taken by adults who now teach the principles to children. And if you have children really up until the age of 20 who have not been taught the handbook that we should all have been given when we were born, then I think that would support them to learn the principles so that their children will grow up empowered
Yeah.
and
I
happy.
feel, Joe, these are the kind of courses that we should have had. We should have had emotional intelligence courses. We should have had communication,
Yeah.
conflict resolution courses. There should be, just like people get a marriage certificate, they should get these certificates first. And then as people are becoming parents, there should be a prerequisite for that as well. I mean, for God's sake, we have to get a driving test license before we are allowed to drive a car. Well, giving birth to children and raising children is literally impacting these humans' lives for as long as they're going to live. There should be some kind of certification that we're required to take as well, some kind of emotional intelligence so that we know how to raise children well. And eye-opening principles that you will learn in these courses. So because the price is so low right now, I would recommend, if you want to take both courses, buy them right now. And then do the adult course first. How long will it take to complete each course, Joe?
It depends on how quickly you want to do it. I would suggest not rushing through them, but some people have a style where they like to read it all through once and then go back and do the exercises and take them on. Some people would rather do one principle, do the exercises once they achieve some sort of level of understanding and mastery of that, go on to the next principle. There's no wrong way to do it. But so the answer to the question is some people do the whole course in 2 weeks. Some people spend a year doing the course, before taking the exam. There's no time limit on when you have to take the exam, or the course is yours forever. So many people tell me that they've done the course once a year, every year of their lives, just because they see something different, because they're in a different place at each time. So, look upon them as a tool that will support you whenever you find yourself straying from the personal development, because you're either climbing the hill of personal development or you're sliding down the slippery slope where you're in trouble. There's no in between. You're either making progress in your life and contributing to others, or you're forgetting it. And I go back and I read my own course time after time and ask myself, okay, what's missing with respect to these principles, and how can I be a better teacher, better student of these? And they never get old, because it's like eternal wisdom. Eternal wisdom doesn't have a time limit on it. And even though the principles are based in personal development, you'll find that they're spiritually grounded principles too. So none of these principles would a religion or a faith ever say, well, that's not a good thing for me to do. It all aligns with our higher selves and with our God-given purpose in life.
Yeah.
So it's all wholesome, healthy, based in love. I guess that's the best way to say it, as opposed to non-love, which is where evil gets its source.
Yeah. So I just want to clarify for you guys. I told you, if you go to this screen, as I just shared with you guys, so please pay attention. If you go to the screen, this one, when you type in the JamaliLiveShow.com/Joe25, it'll take you to this page. When you get to this page, if you click on each course, it is going to give you all the details about the course. What exactly are you going to get? There's PDF course, there's MP3s, there's videos. You get bonus gifts with each of these. So there's hours and hours of content that you will get access to immediately as you check out, as you purchase. So you can see it here, $47, right? So each course is, like I said, 95% off. So instead of charging thousands of dollars that you would have to pay for something like this, it is all digitized. So you can immediately start. As soon as you purchase, you will be able to start immediately. And do it at your own pace, however you see fit. And if you need personal help from Joe, that's going to be thousands of dollars. I can ask him if he still does coaching and stuff, but that's going to be thousands of dollars. Instead of that, this is, within everybody's pretty much price range. You can buy the courses, do them enough, do the practices, then take the certification, and you can start a practice based on that, right? So, so yes, you can buy the course today and you can do the course later because it's at your own pace. It's all digital, right? So I hope that answers your questions. Joe, let me check. All right, so please, Shumaila, message Natasha in email because I am out of time. I can't answer questions anymore. Joe, do you want to add anything before we let you go? It has been absolutely wonderful. I'm so grateful for all the wisdom that you shared with us today.
I want to thank you for the work that you're doing to empower so many people, Eram. It's life-changing. It's right on, and it's God's work. And I want to thank everyone for being here. And I don't believe that there are any accidents or coincidences. I believe that if we start to look for serendipity in our lives, God will put things in our path, people in our path that are there to support us and to champion us and to help us to grow and to be more the person that we were meant to be. And oftentimes we go through life in a fog. So I invite you to look around yourself today. Think that every person that you meet, every opportunity that you see, ask yourself, was I meant to see this, and what good can come out of this? And when you start to look at people that way and you start to ask yourself, how can I make every person's day a little bit better than I found them? You start to shift the way that you think. The world will shift, and you can impact so many people, and they will impact so many people. And maybe we can still change our world because our world is going in the wrong direction. And, there needs to be love and peace and harmony among people. And it's not a concept that's unachievable, but we need to reach a critical mass with it where that becomes the accepted way to be, not the evil, not the fear
Yes,
that's in the
yes,
world and
exactly.
the retribution and all of that. That doesn't serve anyone. And so I'd encourage you to be part of that force of light bearers. And I'm getting to the point where I can't do this forever, but I'm hopeful that the work that I've immerse my life into will carry on. And the only way that's going to happen is if you take it on, and not only this work, but the work of other people who are there to support people. And I'd encourage you to do that and wish you Godspeed, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, we will be sending out the recording. We'll wait till it processes and then we'll send it out in emails. I believe you have 48 hours to watch the recording because we want people to give these things a priority. And you guys already know these kind of conversations are not happening, but they're much needed, especially for our community. So I would like you to make a commitment as an act of love. Please share if you found this information useful and you think you can think of some family members or friends that you think really should hear this. Please forward whenever we send you the email with the replay, send it to them. Ask them to watch it because, this is very, very useful information. That's how truly my life started to change. I heard Joe on, it didn't used to be on video in those days. I heard him on somebody's show and I found him very interesting and I bought the course and I did it. So I have always invested in my own self. Excuse me. Once I realized that I am my biggest asset, I have not stopped investing in myself since then. Self-development is my choice of, jewelry. You can say women from our culture love buying jewelry and stuff because they think it's a good investment too, gold and stuff. And I said, well, no, I am my biggest asset and I will keep investing in myself. Joe, it has been an honor as always. Really, really honored to have shared this space with you today. Thank you for everything that you do. My love and regards to your beautiful wife. Take care and lots of love.
It's my honor. Thank you, and God bless.
God bless. Bye-bye.